Welcome to another episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. Today, I sit down with Chris Gialanella. Chris is the publisher of Los Angeles Magazine. This magazine is iconic, right? It's been around for decades. It is the forefront of where culture meets influence, and Chris is someone that embodies that likability factor on how to communicate to people. Whether it's his editorial team, whether it's potential advertisers in his magazine, or whether it's A-list celebrities. He represents this publication. He attends all the red carpets, whether it's the Oscars, the Golden Globes. He's interviewed some of the biggest names around the world. And we're gonna learn a lot of things from Chris today on how to properly communicate, how to position yourself for success. So enjoy this episode starting now. My name is George Stroumboulis, and I'm extremely passionate about traveling the world, meeting new people, and learning about new businesses. Join me as I sit down with other entrepreneurs to learn about their journeys. This episode of Invigorate Your Business starts now. This is awesome. We're going to roll into this. Starting this now, I'm going to start off with an intro, kind of give people, the listeners, an idea of who you are, and then we're going to dive right into this. Perfect. Lots to cover. So today's guest sits at the intersection of media, culture, and influence. He's a publisher, media executive, and on-air personality behind some of Southern California's most recognizable lifestyle brands, including Los Angeles Magazine and Orange Coast Magazine, also Pasadena Magazine. Through television appearances, print, and digital media, he helps shape how cities, brands, and leaders are seen and understood, from Los Angeles to Newport Coast and beyond. He's interviewed some of the biggest celebrities in the world, covered iconic cultural moments, and understands firsthand how credibility and relevance are actually built. He's someone who understands not just visibility, but credibility, and how real influence is built in today's media landscape. I'm excited to welcome Chris to the show.
Hey, George, thanks for having me. I think you answered everything. I think I can leave, right?
That's it. Let's go. That was the shortest podcast ever.
I love it.
But it covers, man. Like I've been following you for a few years now, and anytime I see like what you're doing, I get tired watching it. Not tired of you, just like, how does he do this? He's one guy. He's on TV. He's hosting events. Last night, we're going to talk about the Golden Globes, but last night, you probably got home in the wee hours of the morning. You're at the Golden Globes. Mm-hmm. Your socials, every imaginable celebrity, you were there talking, photos, all this stuff, like very approachable. So just welcome to the show, man. That was a lot.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I love Orange County. You know, I've lived down here for 6 years of my life, and probably 6 of the best years I've had. Right. What a great community it is down here. So great to be here.
Awesome, man. Thank you. So, I mean, we're going to jump into your background, what you're doing, all this stuff, the influence that you and your company have. But just talk to me the Golden Globes. Literally last night you were there. One of the biggest events.
You know, it's funny. Award season is back. I mean, it's a pretty exciting time, obviously, in Los Angeles and for Los Angeles Magazine. We actually won Entertainment Magazine of the Year for the LA Press Awards that just happened. So it's kind of exciting.
Congrats.
We had a great cover last year with Coleman Domingo, Sebastian Stan, and John David Washington, which really pushed us over the edge. So we're really more about lifestyle, the best place to shop, dine, hike, real estate, doctors, but entertainment is huge. So being at a lot of these shows and hobnobbing with, you know, producers, directors, actors is part of the culture of what we do. So last night was really a summary of the best movies. I think there's some really great movies out there now. And I think in the world today, people are going to the movies and watching movies a lot more than they did before. Sure. So it was great to just be there and witness and see people's hard efforts, you know, paying off with a great award show.
Yeah, absolutely. So going to an event like this and every A-list celebrity is there and you're on the media side, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you even go in there to try to get what you need to go back and fulfill?
Yeah. So we kind of divide and conquer. So my editor, Jasmine, and I, and whoever else, we find ways, because obviously we do a lot of coverage and we get invited to these events for the coverage opportunities. Sometimes we'll do red carpet interviews, which I've done at, you know, Elton John and a couple other events as well. Or we just come as simply guests and kind of experience what's happening. So this whole weekend between the BAFTA Tea Party, there were the Astra Awards, and then there was also the Independent Spirit Awards, and then the Golden Globe. So there's just a lot of activity going on.
Jeez.
And you kind of see a lot of the same nominees at a lot of these award shows, but really the pinnacle is the Oscars, right? So this is kind of like a tease to see what's going to happen. So I think being at these events is important because people want to know what celebrities are doing, right? Everyone wants to like get the inside scoop, and it's kind of fun to be on a red carpet and kind of see how it all comes together. And it was really fun last night because Tiana Taylor, who is just such an amazing actress, wanted to meet Julia Roberts. So I saw her on the red carpet. She saw Julia and she was nervous. She's like, what? So I captured that moment.
That was your moment.
For LA Magazine too, where we had that moment there where the two of them met. And it's kind of an iconic meeting between two Golden Globe winners, because she won the Golden Globe last night, coming together, and kind of like the generations of the new acting people with some of the legendary people like Julia Roberts. So it's fun to capture things like that too.
Oh, absolutely. So like a Julia who's seasoned, she's been around, has an incredible name. How do you think she perceived Tatiana winning? Like,
oh my God, I think she was so excited, and I think, Tiana is an amazing actress. I mean, I first saw her in that Kanye West video, which you'll watch at another time, but she's incredible.
Yeah,
really incredible. So it was really cool to witness.
Amazing. So when you go to an event like this or the Oscars, I'm curious on how do you define what a good show is for you as Chris when you're going there? Like, what are you trying to, is there a game plan? Do you just kind of go?
I mean, it really depends on you. Obviously want to get great content for our magazine, but also networking. I mean, I'm on the business side too. So for me, I always want to find relationships and find ways to work with a lot of these big studios. Like we do a lot of really big events in LA, coming from our women's event. We had Paris Hilton on our cover. We do a big Pride event in June in LA. We do a big men's event. So we do a lot of sort of celebrity kind of ish events as well as other events, but we're always looking for sponsors, always looking to kind of network and find new ways to work with different studios.
Right.
So that's kind of another reason why we like to go, is to kind of network and meet those people.
Yeah. So you're trying to make those connections and so on.
Exactly.
So you have this natural ability. I truly believe you can't teach someone how to do this, but you can walk up to anyone, right? And we talked about off camera, just being in the service industry and being a waiter and all that stuff. But going up to The Rock or Julia or talking to the barista who's giving you coffee, like, is that innate? Like, is that your Italian upbringing on how to communicate? Like, how do you?
I just feel like they're just people, right? It's like having a conversation with anybody. The cashier at Ralph's and Julia Roberts, you just say hello. My name is Chris. I'd love to say hi to you. And, if you want to get a picture, you ask for a picture. But I think it's important to also have a conversation with somebody, not just run up to random people and get selfies. It doesn't you don't want to come across like that. You want to come across genuine. And I feel like maybe it is my upbringing, and I always feel like I always wanted to be genuine. And I really care what people have to say and how they live their life and all that. I'm interested in people.
Right.
That's really what it is. You have to be interested in people in order to be able to do any of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like you're not doing 5 days a week events and social outings if you don't like being around people and communicating. You can't fake that and be that guy.
Exactly.
Right?
But as they say, what you see on Instagram and Facebook isn't really what everything is. I mean, my life is really business. Like we have to keep the lights on, right? So I spend a lot of time working with my teams to figure out ways to generate good revenue to keep us going, whether it's selling an ad in the magazine, doing some sort of special profile, having an event, getting sponsorships. Like it all adds up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So we're an iconic brand, especially in LA. We're 65 years. Orange County, we're 50 years. Pasadena, we're 15 years.
Wow.
So we're legendary brands, right? But we have to still keep those brands going. And how do you do that in this environment, right? So those are things that we're always trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. And we're talking 5, 6, 7 decades in print media. And to be now in 2026 onwards and still thriving, that's not easy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I met the original publisher, Jeff Miller. He started Los Angeles Magazine in 1961. We're celebrating our 65th anniversary now.
Congrats.
And it's so fun. Thank you. It's fun to see the archives of what older magazines then, and looking at the ads and the content. And, we have a great writer named Chris Nichols who does a column at the end of LA Magazine called Ask Chris. He's like a historical editor who finds these great stories. We just did one on Dick Van Dyke, obviously turning 100 years old.
Yep.
And our goal now is to feature people who are still alive that have been in LA Magazine to celebrate them at the end of the year at the Los Angeles Magazine's 65th anniversary ball. Amazing. That we want to do. Honor them at the ball, right? Which is kind of a fun thing to do too. People like Morgan Fairchild and, Joan Collins and Dick Van Dyke and people who were in the magazine as part of our culture back then and making them relevant today.
Yeah.
So that's like one example of like how LA Magazine is evolving. But I met Jeff Miller's widow, Catherine Lee Scott. She was in Dark Shadows. She was an actress. And I had lunch with her recently. And she was, she came armed with old photos and stories. And so it's fun to kind of keep the tradition of Los Angeles Magazine going. Yeah. And then Orange Coast Magazine, 50 years, that was started by Bob Guccione, that we all know from Penthouse. He started Orange Coast as sort of like Orange County being the playground to Los Angeles back then in the 70s. So covers had beautiful women in bathing suits, and it was very sort of that kind of style. John Wayne and all the people that lived down here. And that's kind of where Orange Coast was at that time, but also to see it evolve today, where we're really the authority in Orange County, from the best doctors, lawyers, you name it, there's best places to eat and hike. So we're kind of keeping the consistency too of Orange Coast.
More sophisticated than what it was.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And while we're talking, what's Pasadena like?
Pasadena is obviously a great community.
Yeah.
Pasadena is, kind of like, I don't want to say a sleepy town, but kind of a vibrant community. There's so much to do there. And obviously we just did a big partnership during the Rose Bowl with Visit South Dakota. Came to us. We partnered with them on their float and supporting them and getting the brand out. So we do a lot of different types of things in Pasadena. Obviously, with what happened with the fires in Altadena, we actually gave back to the community too.
Awesome. Honoring
the firefighters. So it's a really great community, Pasadena.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to take a staycation, that's the place to go.
Pasadena, yeah. I like we're kind of jumping around, which means it's a great conversation. Yeah. But you had mentioned the fires. All right, I want to talk about that later, but let's jump into that now.
Yeah.
Last year, officially a year ago, right, with the fires in LA, and I first heard, I was getting texts and messages from around the world, from friends in Europe and South America. Are you okay? Are you geographically? They had no idea Newport versus, and a lot of the time I was going to your channels, right? IG for updates. It evolved and it was like, hey, what's going on today? And just getting that information was just incredible. Was that the original plan?
It's funny. The same thing happened to me that happened to you. I was getting phone calls.
Okay.
My mother was calling me, are you, she didn't really understand that, the Palisades was about, a 15-minute drive from where I live. I could see the fires. I could smell the fires. I was okay, but it wasn't burning. Nothing was burning around me, right? So I did a lot of those Instagram videos simply for people that didn't live in LA that wanted updates.
Absolutely.
The news sometimes can paint a picture where it looks like the whole city's on fire. If you don't live here, you don't know. So I started doing a lot, and it's funny because those videos had a lot of views, and people expected it, and they say, "Hey, what's happening today?" So I did a constant realm of videos that I think were very helpful for people. Just kind of speaking about what's really happening from my point of view.
Yeah.
You know, and then what happened during the fires was we kind of pivoted our covers, and we wanted to give back, obviously, because you have to also be relevant to what's happening in LA. You want your covers to reflect the community. So we asked 3 artists, Robert Vargas, Garen Swing, and Mr. Brainwash, to create really cool themed covers that were iconic. And Mr. Brainwash did a great cover that you could see in LA on La Brea on one of the buildings. Robert Vargas did a fireman shot, and then Garen Swing did a really cool picture of a fireman with his daughter, and their iconic photos. And then we complemented those photos with a really cool comedy night that we hosted, where we had 10 comedians come in and showcase what they're made of. All the proceeds went back to the Pasadena fire relief.
Really?
Because, we believe laughter is the best medicine. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of why we did that. So the beauty, if you want to say the beauty of the fires, even though it was so devastating, the community came together.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to see, because many people think Los Angeles, everyone's in their cars, we're so spread out, but it was nice to see everybody coming together.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that was a big part of it. And even in Orange County, the Newport Beach Fire Department was up there in the Palisades.
Right.
Which is so great to see that everyone really, no matter what your political beliefs are, no matter how you live your life, we were all affected by it.
Yeah, and you would see on the news, there was always the political spin, and it's like, can we, as hard as it is, can we just keep that out of there? Like, let's make sure everyone's safe, getting the resources they need. So that's great to hear, but devastating, right? That's going to be years before they...
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. One of my associates, she lost half of her house in Pasadena, and I went out there to see her home, and just to see, I mean, she got lucky. Her house stayed, but all around her was just nothing.
Jeez.
You know, and people really lost a lot. And, you know, there's a great organization that we work with called A Sense of Home. And this is really interesting. What they do is they provide brand new furniture, brand new plates, brand new art, anything you need that's brand new, right? They have a warehouse where families go, you apply, and then the families come to see what the setup is.
Oh, wow.
Before it goes to your home, which is really unique.
Yeah.
And they've changed a lot of people's lives, especially fire victims who literally have nothing.
Come on.
And we even hosted a retail donation center for LA Magazine. We rented out a spot in Marina Del Rey, had all these donations come in, and then we actually gave out merchandise. There were families from the Palisades, from Altadena. People needed socks. People needed blankets. People needed anything. And honestly, it was really interesting because these very wealthy people who lost everything were coming to the donation center.
It's not crazy.
Saying, I need a pair of sneakers. You know, I need something.
Jeez.
We even had, you know, there was one woman that came who was sort of a homeless woman in the community. I knew she was homeless, right? She came, but you help people out.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
Good, man. And to be able to spearhead that's a big deal.
Yeah. So again, LA Magazine, we're about giving back to the community.
Yeah. Well, that's what
really
it is.
What it is.
So go back. So you're in print now. You're doing events you're getting in front of celebrities. You're supporting local communities. But is that always what you wanted to do?
For our event?
Like as a career, like go back to New Jersey.
I don't know how I got involved in this, George. I mean, honestly, I always liked politics. I was a political science major. I got a job in D.C. right after I graduated. I got an internship. Funny story, my grandmother is the one that got me the internship back then. Congressman Dean Gallo, he was our congressman at the time, was on the Memorial Day parade waving to everybody. My grandmother ran out because it went right by her house and stopped him in his tracks and said, my son's graduating, he needs an internship. And I think he was probably like, wow, what grandmother would say that? Right? He goes, well, tell him to call my office. So I called and wound up getting an internship in D.C. because of my grandmother.
Was she out in the spatula?
My God. And it's funny, I have my grandmother's macaroni pot. I grew up in New Jersey.
Yes.
It's called macaroni. We call it, it's a gravy pot.
Yes.
So I have it to this day and everybody wants it. So I feel like she's always with me. You know, obviously her soul and her heart always is. But the fact that I have this pot too reminds me of her and that internship that she got me, which is kind of
incredible.
Cool. So she,
What's her name?
Her name is Esther.
Esther, okay.
And, she passed away in 1998. And I miss her, I miss her cooking especially too.
Oh my God. Sunday gravy.
Oh man. She would cut up chicken with her hands.
Yeah.
And we ate it. Like nobody cared. You know?
Exactly.
That's kind of how the whole thing works. So yeah, she got me into politics and I worked in DC. And then I wound up moving back to New Jersey, getting a job in the city for this company called PIMS, who distributed press releases and videos, which eventually moved me out to Los Angeles.
Early 20s now?
Yeah, I was 24 when I moved here in 94. So I've been out here for 31 years. So lived most of my life in California.
Okay, so you move out when you're 24, and that was more PR, media, right? PIMS was in that space, okay?
Yep.
Curious, what they offered then, is a lot of that stuff being replaced now online?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, back then it was printing, press releases and slides of, so you reached the press, but you did it in a different way. Everything was mailed and all that. So when I get mail to my office, I'm excited because it reminds me of the old days. But that's kind of how the operation worked, But also the screeners was a big part of what we did back then too. The Academy screeners, we had the Academy list. And for me, I was a 24-year-old kid who had his hands on all the best movies.
Right.
So I remember when I met my wife, we were dating, and she knew I had all the movie. I had Good Will Hunting at the time with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And I remember she called, and we had some mutual friends. She goes, "Can I borrow that Good Will Hunting from you?" So it's kind of funny that the movies I had are, I had some clout.
Yeah,
I gave me clout.
Are you kidding me?
And then, so I worked there for 6 years, and then, I got engaged, and my fiance, who's now my wife, had brought home a copy of a magazine, this beautiful magazine called Angelino Magazine. This is 2000. And she said, you'd be really good in sales. You're so personable. You talk to people, kind of like what you were saying earlier. And so I called the gentleman whose face was in the magazine, Michael Kong, who was the founder of Modern Luxury at the time. And I said, I have no experience, but I'm willing to work hard and knock on doors. And isn't it commission? So pay me for what I bring in, And he was like, I said, yeah, do it. So I came on board, and I remember I sold about $50,000 in my first issue, and everyone was in shock. I'm like, why is everyone in shock? Isn't this like what I'm supposed to do? And really, I learned it's about building relationships, walking up and down the street, going into a store, meeting an owner, meeting a general manager of a hotel or a chef at a restaurant, just getting yourself out there to meet, because we had a magazine, and if I wasn't going into these places, how would the readers go in? So I always feel like it's so important to have in-person meetings, meet people face to face.
Absolutely.
I think the pandemic really changed all that. Yeah, at the time, it was great to have Zoom meetings and phone and all that, but there's nothing better than seeing somebody one-on-one, face-to-face.
Were you brought up like that, though? Like, where'd you learn that in person? Like, were your parents like that? Like,
my dad was, it's so funny. My dad has always been in sales too, his whole life. He worked for companies that sold power equipment.
Okay.
So when the lights went out in New York City in a big high rise, my dad's companies are the ones that supplied the generators and all that. So he was always involved in business and sales. And I think that's probably where I got a lot of my business sense from my dad. And ironically, my dad's 87 and he just retired like 2 months ago. I was back in New Jersey. Well, it was cute because they had a retirement party for him in New York. And, I went to the party, and it was just nice to see my dad in that environment. That's where he has his life, like he loves business. And then he told me he might be consulting.
Good for him.
Dad, you're 87. So I think he feels like he doesn't want his brain to stop, And I think I'm the same way when you see me on Instagram at these parties now. Here I am, like the next day. My mind's always going too.
Yes.
So I'm always on the go.
Yeah. So clearly that's a great example.
So I learned a lot of that from my dad.
Wow. To be at 87 and doing that, it's like to tell someone at that age to stop is to tell them die.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I tried to take the keys away because my dad shouldn't be driving the car either, but that didn't go over too
Minor
well
details.
either.
Yeah.
Step by step.
Exactly. That's incredible. So then back here, you start building that in. Talk to me just about sales tactics. Like when you're talking and you're trying to generate business, like what have you learned over the years doing this multiple years, multiple times?
I kind of feel like I never want to be the person to walk into a room and have people like avoid me, right? So I feel like sales, if you want to call it sales, is kind of like a first date. You want to ask a lot of questions, right? To really see if it makes sense to take it to the next level, right? Like, is your business worthy, of being a part of our magazine group or having an event? So I kind of treat everything in that way where I want to know so much about your business, number one, and obviously doing the research before I go into the meeting is always important. But it's always good to have those kind of that way of selling. And then then I always say, here are some opportunities. Let me know what you think.
Yes.
Right? So we have this opportunity, that opportunity. And even code calling, I always say, just give me 5-10 minutes. Don't you want to know what's happening? Don't you want to know what's going on in our world? I might be able to help you.
Absolutely.
And there's no harm in that, right? So that's kind of how I've always had that approach.
Yeah. And clearly it works, right? So right now, back to LA Magazine, Orange Coast Magazine, what is the goal? Like when you're looking at the industry over the last 5 years, 10 years, it's changing. And then you're looking at the future. Is it more geared towards online, more event experiences? How do you fight the trends?
It's interesting because I feel like we always take a 360 approach between print, digital. I think it's important to have a touch point of everything. Like radio is not going anywhere. So there's always going to be radio. I always feel like print will always be around. People still like to touch and feel. And our magazines have subscriber bases, so people still pay money to receive the magazine. But we also find unique ways. I'll give you an example. So the Super Bowl is coming to California in 2 weeks, right? So I'm doing a new opportunity called Road to the Super Bowl. So we start in Los Angeles and we end up in San Francisco and we make stops along the way. I'm bringing a video guy. I'm bringing an influencer. We're creating 60-second reels of different venues. So we want our readers and our viewers to know where to stop if they're taking a road trip up north.
Awesome.
So you have places like the city of Santa Monica is celebrating their Route 66, right? It's 100 years. So we're going to do something on the pier there. We're going to the Malibu Beach Inn. We're going to showcase a brunch item there. Then we're going to go to visit, wherever it is along the way. So we have all these different stops, and these are marketing ways for these businesses to kind of try something new, right? So they'll get a 60-second reel. They'll be part of a digital story. It's just something unique, right? So those people that say, oh, we don't believe in print. Well, guess what? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have these opportunities.
Absolutely.
So we always have to be in the forefront of new ideas. And I'm always somebody I'll try anything. Why not?
Absolutely.
We're happy to try different things to see how they work. And I treat my team the same way. If anyone has any ideas, you get credit for it, number one, and let's try it. Let's see what we could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is something and I want to kind of take this concept to the road to Coachella, the road to the wine country in San Diego. So then you kind of create this kind of road trip vibe because we're Southern California, right? Where else do we want to go? So it's kind of a unique thing. So I'm excited to see how this whole thing plays out.
So I'm curious, for tourists that are coming in, it's mostly like your circulation here, it's mostly residents, right? But like, what about tourists that come in? Like, how do you, they're coming to LA.
So important.
It's so important.
So we have obviously distribution at a lot of the hotels. So obviously, and also at the airport.
Yes.
We're in, Delta Sky Lounge, or we have an LA Magazine store at LAX.
Yep.
We're working on an Orange Coast store here at John Wayne. So it's important to kind of capture the tourist, obviously, because you want them to come back, but it's a lot of business, especially for restaurants. I mean, they've done surveys where someone will have one meal at a hotel and then every other meal is out, right?
Yeah,
so usually they have breakfast at the hotel and then they're constantly out. So restaurants, the perfect target is a tourist, right?
Yes.
So, and the tourism is great even in Pasadena during the holidays. Our November, December issue of Pasadena Magazine, flew.
Right.
There were so many people in town for the Rose Bowl and all that going on. How else could you find out what to do and where to go and where to shop in one easy place than a magazine, right?
And it's true. Like for me, life is busy, especially with 3 young kids, running a business. Most of the time I read a magazine is on a plane, even if I've bought it or I have a couple or I'm using the one that's there, or hotels. For me, that's my biggest attention span, which I'm sure is the norm for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pasadena, so 10 years I've been living here in Orange County. I've never been to the Rose Bowl up until 6 months ago when they had the soccer tournament going on here.
Oh, yeah.
What a nightmare getting in and out with the traffic and paying the local guy to park there. It was incredible being there, but what a process getting in and out.
What an iconic place. I mean, in the middle of this beautiful residential area is the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
I mean, it's unique. I mean, UCLA have all their football games there. There's so many. They also do there's a big food event they do called Masters of Taste there every April. There's so many great things to do. Plus, there's so much physical activity. People are jogging and walking, and it's a whole life of its own.
Yeah, it's
really cool.
Yeah, if you've never been to LA or California and you see what on TV or movies, and then you're there, you're like, oh, this is what I expect. The trees and the weather. And if you're a new magazine launching today, do you think it's easy as a new magazine to try to get into the print space, or having an iconic name over decades? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. I mean, if there's a need, if it's something unique and different, of course, I think it could work. I think the print space, we always welcome print magazines. I want people to be reading magazines. Right. So yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think there's always a place for a print vehicle. Yeah, for sure.
You're originally from Jersey, New Jersey. You're proud of your upbringing, right? With the kids and the childhood and everything. You move out here. Talk to me, what do you miss from the East Coast? What's stuff that...
Besides the Italian food and the pizza and the bagels?
Yeah, that's about it.
Let me think about what do I miss? Okay, here's something unique that I miss.
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm in New Jersey, I don't know if you've ever been to the Jersey Shore. Yep. But you could smell the ocean miles away. Yeah. When you're here in LA or Orange County, you don't smell the salt air and the salt water, I kind of miss the smells of a true shore. Yes. Even here, if I was in New Jersey, I'd smell the ocean leaving Costa Mesa. Yeah. Right? So I kind of miss
why is that?
I don't know what it is.
know.
It's kind of unique, right? If you really think about it. Even when you're on the beach,
yes,
you don't even smell the ocean.
You're absolutely right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of unique.
I've never paid attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just, but obviously I miss my family and
all that
stuff.
So when you move over here, like I was telling you earlier, I've been here 10 years. I still can't fall in love with LA. Los Angeles, for me personally, it's like, there's elements of it that are cool. There's pockets that are like, oh, cool restaurant, cool area. But I never land here and I'm like, oh, I'm back home.
Yeah.
New York gives me that vibe. And I'm originally from Toronto, so it's not like I have a bias to New York. Like, what is it that you fell in love with LA, Los Angeles?
I think as business relationships, and I think in LA, when you build a community of the right friends and business people, LA becomes a small town, in a weird way. So I love LA. I'm like one of the people who, like, a lot of people have left LA. Oh, it's crazy here. There's a lot of homeless people. Everyone's coming back, And obviously with the Olympics coming, there's going to be a lot of excitement happening in Los Angeles. But I love the culture. I love the diversity. I love that there's something to do every day. It's definitely not a boring place, right? So you can go to the beach, you can go on a hike at Runyon Canyon, you can have some great Italian meatballs in the valley, this place that I go called Lido Pizza. There's things to do all the time. Great museums. There's just a lot of fun stuff to do in LA.
Well, you know all the spots, right? So if we're talking food in LA, like, where do you go for a hole in the wall that's your go-to? Like, this is your last meal you're having. What hole in the wall are you going to? And then you're going to tell me the top-notch restaurant that you would go to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've mentioned Lido Pizza, so it looks like a hole in the wall in Van Nuys. It's this old school in a shopping center. They've got some of the best Italian food I think I've had. Really? Right? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Actual Italians making it?
No, not Italians. It's a Mexican family who own it, but make the best Italian food.
Okay, got to try.
It's interesting, right? And also, speaking of Mexican food, it was interesting. Before I moved to LA, I never had authentic Mexican food. Right. Growing up in New Jersey, I don't know what it was like in Toronto, but
garbage.
We had Taco Bell, So I was like, wow, what is it? What am I experiencing here? So it's great when you find also a hole in the wall Mexican place or a burrito on Lincoln Boulevard off the truck. You're like, wow, what is this?
And there's so many options here that are all good. Yeah.
And then I'm kind of an old school kind of guy. I sometimes feel like I should have been living in like the 50s and 60s. So like my go-tos are like old school places like the Grill on the Alley in Beverly Hills. It has that kind of old school, kind of like a Smith and Walensky kind of vibe, right? Yep. The tablecloths and the waiters that like are true waiters, not actors that happen to be waiters.
Exactly.
Like I like those like Musso and Frank and places that are just so iconic. I love. So when something closes, I'm devastated. Like what happened to that place? So I kind of always like to support but obviously there's some great new places all over the place and all over LA, and it's kind of nice to see too.
Yeah, and we're going to talk Orange County, but so we did the lighting for Jose Andres, the Bazaar.
Oh, yeah.
But the new one that still hasn't opened up in the Frank Gehry building across from the Opera House, we finished the lighting almost 2.5 years ago. The place is done and they still haven't opened.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like dying because like it's absolutely beautiful in there. But I guess during COVID, you know better than anyone what happened in LA.
Yeah.
Which
I think that kind of changed a lot in LA, the pandemic. I mean, a lot of people left the city and people moved out to Palm Springs, moved to Texas, moved out. It really changed. It was a ghost town.
Yeah.
I remember there was an iconic photo. God, I can't remember the name of the photographer. We printed it in the magazine at the time. And it was on April 10th, 2020. And it was the 10 freeway at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was not one car on the road. But isn't it kind of interesting that people really did not leave their homes at the time? Like people think, you didn't really go anywhere unless you had to.
Yeah. And for the listeners outside of California or the country, like the 10 freeway is
insane. But it was literally not one car at that time, April 10th.
Yeah.
And I remember my anniversary, my 20th anniversary was May of 2020. And my wife and I got married at the Ritz-Carlton in Marina del Rey. And we wanted to go and, everything was shut down. The swimming pool was covered. And I remember we said, can we just bring it? There was 2 people working there. The general manager, who was also the valet guy. They had to stay open because I think some people lived there.
Right.
So they couldn't shut down altogether. But there was maybe 2 people working at that hotel.
That's crazy.
At that time, which is nuts.
That is
a crazy time, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. And we'll keep the politics out of it. It's just like, just around the world, it was crazy. But I remember down here in Orange County, it was like there was that 3 weeks, and then it just kind of opened up.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then it was the beach, and it was this, and I'm like, are we allowed to do this?
I spent a lot of time down here during the pandemic because everything was open.
It was open.
You know?
It was just business as usual.
But then my wife would get mad. You wore your mask, right? I'm like, yes, I wore my mask.
Yes.
But it was definitely an interesting place. Restaurants were open.
Oh, yeah.
It was really a unique environment here.
And Canada, where I'm from, was just shut down years after. It was like 3 years into it.
Yeah.
And we were like, wait, what? That was a couple of years ago.
Yep.
But the sad part of that, it was just like how many businesses couldn't survive, and back to the restaurant conversation. And like, it's never been the same since, right? But I feel like it's thriving. FIFA's coming here. So the World Cup is going to be in LA. There's a lot of good stuff happening here.
Yeah, yeah. And also the Olympics. I mean, we're going to benefit too in Orange County. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people coming to town and staying in the hotels and experiencing all these great places that we have to offer in Laguna and Newport. So it's going to be really exciting.
Do you know, are there any venues down here in Orange County? Like
I think Long Beach, I know, is one of the venues. Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah. You know, we're meeting with LA28 to kind of talk about a plan.
Okay.
But I haven't heard anything yet with Orange County.
I mean, then we're going to be dialed in for that.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
So come down to Orange County, Newport Beach, Laguna. What are your go-to spots here? You've lived here. Your son grew up a good portion here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love, obviously, Fashion Island and South Coast Plaza are like playgrounds here. I mean, I spend so much time there. I mean, I love like On Key at South Coast Plaza. I love the Scalded Noodles. I mean, maybe because I'm biased because they have crustacean in LA. But places like Five Crowns and A Restaurant, which we talked about. And all these great places. I mean, Shelly, who works at A Market, makes the best chicken salad ever. So if you haven't had it, you got to go over there.
Drop Chris's name for a 10% discount. Right?
Shelly will make the best. But also the hotels. I mean, the Pendry, the Balboa Bay Resort, the restaurants, they're just great restaurants. They're really great. And also Il Barone is one of my favorites, and Antonello. Yes. Those places are awesome.
And that's across from South Coast Plaza, right? Yes,
Yep.
And what about Hole in the Walls?
Hole in the Wall in the OC?
Yeah.
Are there any?
I know, that's define a hole.
I don't know.
I mean, that's an oxymoron.
There was do we count, what's the burger place in Crystal Cove? There's like a little off the road. Is that a hole? I don't even know.
I know where you're...
Maybe that is.
Maybe.
There was also this dumpy sushi place I used to go to in Santa Ana. I can't remember the name of it. But it had my son loved it at the time because it had the the sushi where you just pick off what you want.
Yes.
It was kind of a hole in the wall.
Yeah, I've never been there. I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said your son. Can we talk about him for a few minutes?
Sure, yeah.
So he's studying... Can you say where?
My son's in Boston.
Yep.
So one of the universities there, he loves it. Thriving well. He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's going to be abroad for the second semester of his junior year. I'm going to miss him, but I think his parents, and you know this too, I think the most important thing to teach your kids is independence, right? Being able to be out on your own and kind of like what my parents taught me.
Yes.
When I moved to California with really nothing, I had a good sense of who I was and what I wanted to do, but I didn't have like my dad's business or my mom's business to fall back on. I did all this on my own.
Yes.
So I think it's important to teach your kids those things, and that's kind of what I'm trying to teach my son.
So what did you do? So your son now entering his 20s, what were you doing when he was 5, 10, 15? Were you proactively doing it?
Oh, I mean, he's always kind of lived with a different beat in his drum. I mean, he was he loved history. He loves politics. He knew a lot of things that not any 5-year-old would know. I mean, for example, my son, actually when he was 2.5, he always wanted to go to the airport. There was an In-N-Out Burger by LAX before we moved to Orange County. You could see the airplanes fly over. So you got your In-N-Out Burger, you sat in the park, and my son would know every airline under the sun.
Come on.
Which was crazy for a 2.5-year-old. Spent a lot of time on YouTube looking at airplanes. And then we moved to Orange County, and there wasn't a place to go by John Wayne that you could watch the airplanes.
Yeah, no.
So the movie Cars had come out, and my son was really amazed by different cars and different brands. And he would ask people, can I see your keys? Can I see? And then he would tell you what kind of car he had. It was crazy. Then he had a whole NASCAR thing where he loved NASCAR. We went to every NASCAR race under the sun.
Are you kidding me?
He got involved. But the beauty was he learned about cities and states And the funny thing is, he also stopped believing in Santa Claus at such a young age because he said to me, well, all these cities have flags, or countries have flags, but what's the North Pole's flag? So he kind of caught on quick.
Get out of here.
So he was a kid that always had knowledge. He had encyclopedias for birthdays. Like, he was just a very interesting, well-rounded kid. And he started a nonprofit when he was 9 called GovLearn to educate kids how politics works. He felt that there was a lack of civics education in the schools, so he would host online classes. On election day, he had a Zoom, and all these kids would join, and he'd answer questions like, what does the judiciary branch do? What's the role of the vice president? So just educating kids on how everything works.
At 9 years old?
At 9 years old.
So what drove him at 9, like, to even know what politics are?
He just has always been somebody who's been fascinated by the whole process. And, you know, and now he's studying international relations, political science, and we'll see. Maybe he wants to go to law school. I'm not sure.
But does he have aspirations to be in politics?
I mean, everyone thought, he's going to be the next president of the United States.
Kidding?
Maybe.
He's on a good, he's on a good path.
You know?
I mean, your grandma would be proud, right?
Right,
Seeing,
exactly.
Like, yeah, where's Governor Gallo? Or who was he, a senator at the time?
No, he's, Congressman Dean Gallo.
Congressman, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. God rest his soul. You know, it was funny back then, back to Dean Gallo. Those were the days where people smoked inside buildings.
Yes.
And Dean Gallo, he was a big smoker. So I remember I was in there, but the whole place smelled like cigarettes. That's what I remember about him. I'm like, wow.
That's
I can't believe that.
Were you on Capitol Hill with him?
Yeah.
Like they had their office?
Yep. It was right in there, but it was interesting because, you know, he also he would go back and forth to New Jersey, and then he'd be in DC, but I was in charge of answering all the mail, and I learned a lot working for that guy. It was really interesting.
Like, whatever he was, a political party, whatever he was with, like, did that open your eyes more to, like, made you want to get further into politics, or did it push you away?
No, I mean, I really wanted to get more involved. I think when you're there, seeing it firsthand, you definitely want to be more involved.
Right.
But then my parents were like, you got to get a real job. You know, what are you going to do? So I kind of ran out of my funds, so I had to move back home.
Yeah. Which
happens. It's hard when you're 23 and you're like, oh, I went through college and I lived in DC. Now I'm living back with my parents for a little bit.
But now you're seeing with the kids, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to take a couple leap years and this and that and figure it out. But your son is on a path. That's incredible.
Yeah, he's great. So he's my soul. He's my best friend.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited for him. I'm going to miss him. He's leaving soon, and I won't see him for a couple months.
Jeez, are you going to go visit him overseas?
Yeah, I'll be overseas. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
When you have a job like this, a career like this, and it's like, you're doing the road to here, and every day you're out, and there's events. Like, it's not a normal 9 to 5, clock in, clock out. You're home in time for this. Like, it's demanding, right? How has that been over the years, balancing that with, like, a young child, then a teenager, then a spouse? Got to keep your spouse happy, and how do you manage that?
You definitely have to find balance, because you can't be everywhere at once. So either I divide and conquer with the team, and we figure out what makes sense to go to which events or where to be. But I try to always support any of our partners. So if it's a new hair salon that opened up in Costa Mesa, and they need hey, we're having an event, I try to pop by, right? I try to be there because it's important, and you want your customers to feel that they're important enough for you to be there, right? They're just as important enough to be at their opening of their hair salon as to be at a Golden Globe event, right? Kind of look at it in the same way too, Just
the fact that you make them feel like that means everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But, my wife actually said the pandemic was so good in many ways because I wasn't at events.
Right.
I was home. It's funny because we decided as a family, what TV show have none of us ever seen that we want to get into? So we started watching Downton Abbey, which I never even knew anything about.
Yep.
But we watched it from start to finish, and it was just a fun time for our family to just watch something so unique and such a beautiful show that took place in like the early 1900s in England, at the castle and all the, so it was really unique that time in our lives, that show brought us together in a weird way.
See, you had a nice one. We were watching Ozark. My wife
I liked Ozark too.
Which is like the drug, And when Ozark finished, we conceived our third child during the pandemic. And that's where, so a little different story.
Yeah.
Just looking back, incredible. So, but when you're going to the events, do you include your spouse when you can? Is it a different world? Yeah.
But, we have different worlds. I mean, my wife's a social worker. She works for the school system. So, like, her days are completely different from my days, right? Like, we have different worlds and different days. But she'll come and support. We do a lot of tentpole events from food. Like, Orange County, we do Best of OC.
Yep.
LA, we do, our women's events. So my wife comes to support as much as she can.
Yes. How exhausting is it with... You're the guy, right? Like you have this business that you're running and operating and growing, but people always want access to Chris or get me here. I need this. I want that. I like, how do you balance that? Like, that's got to be exhausting.
I'm trying to still figure that one out. I mean, my problem is I'll answer a DM, even if it's, or an email, even if it doesn't make any sense for the magazine. I always feel like someone at least should get a response back.
Wow.
Whether it's, so I always try to write everybody back, or someone sends me a DM on Instagram and I don't follow them. I try to like say hello or whatever.
Really quick though, it's not like you have 100 followers, like you have tens of thousands of followers. So that's not.
I try. I mean, someone always, if they have good intentions or, hey, can you help support this? Or I have this great story idea. I'll try to listen to it and help out as much as I can.
Sure.
Or direct them in the right place. Yeah. Right. Because people just want to be heard, That's all.
Yeah, and that's all.
In today's world, it's nice to be heard. And I think it's nice to have somebody write you back.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. So you target that.
I try to do that as much as I can.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So when it comes to like interviews now, I just want to talk, and you've been amazing with the time. I know, you sit down with a celebrity or someone who has a status, right? Whether you treat them the same as someone else, like what do you try to tap into when you're talking to them? If you get 30 seconds or 2 minutes, what are you trying to achieve out of that?
I always like to ask somebody where they got their start, right? How did that molded them to be where they are today? And then obviously I like to have fun with it too. So if we're in LA, I'll ask, like, what's your favorite thing to do in LA? I remember I interviewed Patricia Arquette, and such a meaningful, that whole family, they're just wonderful people, from David, Patricia. And I remember asking her, like, there was a movie called True Romance that came out with Christian Slater back in 1993. It was like one of her starting roles. And when I met her, I wanted to talk about that because it was such a pivotal point in my life where, maybe the content of the movie wasn't something that I was interested in, but it was about Los Angeles.
Right.
And I was living in New York, and I was like, wow, I'd love to live in LA one day. I think everybody wants to live in LA one day. I think it was everyone's kind of dream.
Yep.
So when I met her, I said, I think you might be the reason why I came to LA, Patricia. There was something in me that I love seeing Sunset Boulevard and all these really cool places. And I remember she was just she spent so much time talking to me about so many things. And she was such an interesting person who had heart. And those are the kind of people who I enjoy talking to.
Right.
She had a lot to share, a lot of history of her family. Her dad was an actor, and she was telling me a cool place to go in Culver City that I didn't know about, So having those kind of conversations are way more interesting than tell me what you're wearing, So I just enjoy really learning more about the person.
Yeah. So you see people, I see people where the minute someone gets a little clout, like you'll see it on a level where it doesn't even mean anything in the end. They get a little clout, ego comes with it, or sometimes it doesn't. And then you have these superstars who seem as humble as they can. But then you see on the other side where it's like, you're getting asked every angle. Someone always wants something from you. It could get exhausting. But like, do you see a lot of people in this world that are just so far removed, like have lost reality, or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
I mean, again, I try to be courteous. I try to hear everybody's story out, but like there are a lot of people who maybe aren't relevant now, but who knows? You never know. You never want to, I forgot the term, like, where someone's going to be in the next few years, right? Like, so you always want to treat people with respect, like a waiter in a restaurant, a cashier, you never know.
You never know.
So I'll smile, I'll nod, but if I'm not interested, I'll say, maybe not right now, but maybe in the future.
Yes.
Right? That's always a nice way to put it with somebody.
You mentioned the Ritz, your wife, right? Didn't Sebastian Maniscalco work at the Ritz Carlton? And I believe he was a waiter there back in the day.
Oh,
yeah, you just triggered. We'll fact check that after, but that was his thing. Yeah, he was a waiter there at the Ritz, which is right on off the ocean there, right?
Yeah, Admiralty Way.
Yeah, I believe he was.
It's so funny. I saw him this weekend. There was a brunch. There's a new diner in LA on Larchmont called Max and Helen's. Phil Rosenthal, who was one of the producers, and he started Everyone Loves Raymond.
Oh,
he also has a food show on Food Network. Great guy.
Yep.
So he opened up this old school diner with Nancy Silverton, and they had a brunch on Saturday, and he was there.
He was there.
Sebastian was there, and Conan O'Brien was there. Ted Danson. So it was really, really fun. I remember I took a photo with him because he was someone who I'm like, wait a minute, I want to meet you. Like, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, I don't.
Great guy.
He's a great guy. Well, if that was true, you missed your opportunity. You'll get the next opportunity.
Now I should have said you worked at the Ritz.
Yeah. Well, let's fact check that first.
Okay.
Who do you get starstruck? Like you mentioned comedians. There's really no one out there I'd go crazy about. Maybe like as a child, it was like Michael Jordan, Wendell Clark was a hockey player. Mm-hmm. But comedians, there's something about comedy. Like I'm obsessed with comedy, right? Mm-hmm. Like comedians in cars getting coffee. I love this series. Like who would you get starstruck with today?
You know, it's funny. I was Robert De Niro. I met him and I was completely starstruck and may have said something kind of silly.
You got to tell us.
It was a little silly. It was my thought of getting to talk to somebody and then asking for a photo. I literally didn't know what to say to him. So I just said, hey, can I get a photo with you? And he just looked at me like I was nuts, and that was kind of an awkward moment because I was so starstruck. And then even this weekend when I saw Julia Roberts, I was like, wow, I mean, she's so beautiful. When you see somebody like that in person. She's gorgeous. Yeah. And there was so much I wanted to say to her, but I didn't have an opportunity. Yep. Because she was so engaged with what she was doing. I didn't want to interfere.
What would you say though if you got that second?
Well, it was funny because we all went to this place in Venice where I used to take my son. It was one of those like Mommy and Me, or one of those places and Julia went there too. And and then I couldn't remember the name of it. So I'm like, well, what am I going to say to her? But I remember she lived in Venice at the time and she would go there. So that was kind of a fun,
great icebreaker.
Common denominator that we're parents and we have kids, and our kids are around the same age as my son.
See, it'd be weird if you didn't have kids and you knew that.
Yeah, it would be weird.
So that's good that you have a kid.
For sure.
And speaking of celebrities, I read somewhere, one of your roommates, or you roomed with 90210 Ian Ziering?
Oh, okay. Here's the connection.
Okay, there's some connection.
So a gal who I went to high school with was engaged to him.
Okay.
Okay, so I came out to LA in 93 to visit, right? And I stayed at Ian's house. And it was at the peak of 90210. So you can imagine how fun it was to be going out to restaurants and nightclubs with Ian Ziering from,
That was a global sensation, that show.
Yeah. And he was such a great guy. And he's from New Jersey. Yeah, great guy. And it's funny, I reconnect. He wound up, they never got married or anything. He wound up getting married, and I don't know. But anyway, I saw him. I was asked to be in a fashion show for a prostate cancer charity called the Blue Jacket Fashion Show.
Okay.
They do it in New York and LA. And I said, I'll do it. So I went. And Ian was one of the models too. So I got a chance to reconnect with him, and it was good to see him.
He remembers you, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that is so cool.
To see him. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Two more things. Again, I know from a time. Body transformation, right?
Oh, fitness.
Yeah, fitness, man. You look very good for your age. I'm not going to give away your age, but you look amazing.
Too.
I'm a little younger, but for you, your shape, we're going to put B-roll up because the photos are online.
Okay.
How did you get into that? Were you always into fitness? Were you always conscious about your body?
No, I was the guy that would go to the gym and think I was doing a good job and eat what. But I was turning 40 at the time, and I remember I wrote a column in the magazine about how I wanted to get the best shape in my life, and this gentleman named Todd Vandehei was opening up a gym called Stark. And he called me and he said, hey, I'd love you to come in and experience what we're doing. I said, okay, I'll come in. I remember I went in and they had these calipers and they measured my body fat. I never seen anything quite like it. And before you know it, I was 24% body fat, which I was like, okay. He goes, well, maybe we can get you down to 12 or 10 or whatever. I'm like, okay, how are we going to do that?
What's average, by the way? What is average?
I think average is probably about 15.
15, okay,
15 is probably an average. So what I learned from Todd was that, I worked out maybe 3 or 4 days a week for 1 hour, but it was the steps, making sure I got at least 10,000 steps a day. So the cardio was important, but also what you're putting into your body. So diet.
Yep.
So I learned so much from Todd about the right things to eat, where most of it's like in the kitchen. That's where you get your abs from, right? So they were doing a contest called Stark Naked at the time, where they took 4 men and 4 women in business. They train you in this stark manner, almost like a bodybuilder. And it was a 6-month sort of training moment. Then they had a photo shoot, and then you donated money back to a charity based on how many votes you got. And anyway, so I won the first year, which was crazy.
Amazing. How old were you at this point?
I was 41, 42.
The shape of your life after this?
Yeah. Oh. So I was really lean, and people were like, whoa, what happened to Chris?
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about fitness. Then as the years went by, I've done it a few times. And for me, I always felt like if you feel great on the inside, you're going to feel great. No, if you feel great on the outside, you're going to always feel great on the inside.
Yep.
Or is it vice versa? I can't remember the right term.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to feel good about yourself in order to be a better dad, a better business person. So that's why I always love fitness.
That's incredible, man.
So it's always a big part of my life. And I also have helped a lot of people along the way. I'll help people with programs. I'll introduce Todd to a lot of people. I just did a podcast with a gentleman in North Carolina called Dad Tough. I interviewed him about his fitness regime because it's something I'm interested in. I think men, at a certain age, sometimes you don't know what to do, right?
So true.
So, and it's good to have like-minded people that could help you.
Yes.
Plus, it focuses on your mental health. And I think when you feel good about yourself, you're good in the world.
Absolutely. And I find you could get advice from anyone, anywhere. Everyone always has an opinion, but the most realistic thing is like nothing drastic. Anytime something drastic's introduced, it's going to taper off at some point.
Correct.
So like what you said before, your steps, you're this, you're that. Like if you focus on a few things to maintain, like that's what I try to do. But like sometimes I'll go into the gym and be like, do I do this today? And it's kind of in motion.
Yep. But the other thing is like I've always been, and Todd and I have kind of fought about this too, because I've always said like, you got to be able to have a piece of cake.
Yes.
Or a croissant every now and again, or that cocktail that you want. Like when you limit yourself to all those, you can't live your life like that.
Absolutely.
You got to have balance. And that's what's important.
Is it very important in your line of work? Obviously, you have to maintain. You're very fashion forward, but like, does that help when you're in these events? Like, it gives you the confidence to go and do what you need to do.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
For sure. And I just think how you present yourself really speaks volumes of who you are. Right? You could judge how someone is based on in their appearance in a way.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's important.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So if you weren't in media today, based on your skill set and everything, like what would you be doing?
I always say, I wish I could literally be a bartender and have a job where I talk to people all day and night about their problems. And then they get to go home and not answer one email, not have to go to one event. So a job, maybe not a bartender, but I'm just saying something that kind of, your day ends.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you don't have to deal with anything. I always say to my dad, like in the 70s and 80s, like he would have his briefcase, but there were no cell phones, there were no computers. Like he came home, like he was shut off.
That was it.
Right? Like I want that.
Yeah.
Like, and they functioned, life went on.
Things still happen. Yeah.
Like it functioned. And I'm not saying, social media and the internet, but like life may have been better then in a way. You know what I mean? I think our minds were in everywhere. And I think the state of mental health is probably on the rise because of all this stuff.
Yes.
Even the young generation with kids and not being invited to parties and seeing what's happening, what other people's lives are. And even like when I mentioned to you, like not everything is what you see on Instagram.
No.
Everything's a grind. And, we're just trying to keep everybody happy and keep the train going.
Absolutely. When those doors close, everyone's home. Every household has their own set of problems they're dealing with. Doesn't matter how great it looks, right? Like it's always the case.
As kids growing up, I'm sure in Canada, I remember being out riding my bicycle, hanging out in the neighborhood, and we had something called the 6 o'clock whistle from the fire department in town. When you heard that whistle, everybody went home.
Yes.
So my parents had no idea where I was. Nobody was tracking anybody. We were all having a good time.
Yeah, and now we're scared, and you got to call to set up a play date. The doorbell rings. You're like, well, who is it? Are you expecting something? Like, it's gone off the rails, right?
It really has. It really has.
In closing,
it's over.
No,
Damn.
I know from a time standpoint, but like, like for people, just developing people when they're coming to you, right? Like you have different age generations coming, working for you, salespeople, creatives. Like for someone to come and work for you, what's advice on things to do, things not to do, things you see, without sounding old, like back in our day, we used to do this.
You know, it's funny. I think number one, punctuality, just being on time. I always give myself a good half hour before any meeting. You always want to be there. And if I am running late, I'm going to let them know I'm running late. I remember I interviewed somebody or had an interview planned and, it was at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, person's not there. 4:10, nothing. Check my email. 4:50, come strolling at 4:20. So unfortunately, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
I said, what? So, yeah, you didn't, I understand being late and it happens, traffic, but reach out. You have my email. So that person did not get, so that's always number one in my book. And then obviously somebody that has some pizzazz and some personality. You're not afraid to be who you are.
Yep.
That's kind of, and in our world, in the magazine world, especially in sales, people want to buy from someone that they trust or someone that they are affable and you could relate to. So I always look for those personalities.
Yeah.
Well,
another thing that I love personally, so I agree with everything, is thank you notes. Like how important are thank you, like handwritten thank you notes? Again, I'm 44, but I got one, I received one 2 months ago from someone in the mail, and it still hits different. Right now, it's very weird. Like, I'll have a job interview with someone, and they won't even follow up in an email to say thank you for your time.
Right.
Let alone a hand. I'm just saying, like, just acknowledge that. So,
I 100% agree with you. I'm a big fan of thank you notes, or even bringing a little gift of thanks or anything that makes you stand out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super important. And again, that's the personal connection of being in the room where it happens.
Yes.
Like making sure that you're present with somebody one-on-one. And a thank you note goes a long way. I'm a big fan of that. I grew up always having to send thank you notes out. Always.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
But you're right. Some people don't even bother. Or you're on an interview and they're not even asking you any questions. They just want to hear what the position is to see if it makes sense for them. It's like nobody has any. Don't you want to know what we're doing? It's weird. It's a weird place.
So is that generational? Is that there's options in the marketplace? Like what is that?
I mean, older people too have been this way. I don't know if it's a sign of laziness or I don't know what it is, but it's a different world today.
I have a meeting tomorrow night in Boston. And this past Saturday, so 4-day turnaround, swapping messages with this guy. I won't name his name yet, but he's working on this new project. Saw the stuff that we do online. Hey, when can you be here? I'm like, Tuesday. Oh, Tuesday when? I'm like, this Tuesday, I'll be there. He's like, but you live in LA, California. Like, we'll be there. My point is, it's like, get in front of the people, like when you can, show that urgency. I used to do 300,000 miles a year flying. COVID slowed that down, which was good. Recalibrate. Get in front of people, right? It's no different than driving down. Like FaceTime changes everything.
So true.
They're not preoccupied. You're not on a Zoom and they're, secretly trying to text. It's like, just give me 5-10 minutes and then I'll know if this is worth pushing or not,
Totally.
Yeah. So
now, in your defense, if we were doing a Zoom, I wouldn't be on my phone. Because you're a pretty interesting guy.
I appreciate that.
So, and I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to meet you and hear about your business. And you're a great guy. You're a great dad. I met your wife. So
appreciate that. She was talking your ear off. Yeah. she's my Grexican, the Greek
she might
Mexican.
be my new sales rep.
Yeah, there you go.
Who knows?
She'll crush it. But you're awesome. Last thing really quick.
Yeah.
You're on TV a lot. Fox, different networks. You do a lot. You're so natural on camera. Right? Like, what are some tips? Like, when you get on there, is it just, hey, I'm talking about this today, and it just comes to you? Are you prepping? Like, how do you prepare for that?
So we do a segment on CBS now every other week, and we talk about things that are happening in the magazine. So things that are happening in the magazines are so interesting to me that I just get excited.
Right.
So I treat it like a conversation, and we bring really unique people on, whether it's a chef or somebody doing something really kind of fun. But on those news segments, it's very conversational. So I just we let the flow. And I think the anchors, Sheba and Jamie and Chris and Amber and Kalina at CBS and the producer, they're just so down to earth people that everything just flows, And then when we were with Fox 11, we had Alex Michelson and Marla Tejas, and Marla and Alex are wonderful. Alex now moved on to CNN.
Okay.
He's doing The Story Is at night, which is kind of cool because now CNN has sort of that 9 o'clock slot with live, which is kind of fun. And Alex is one of the hardest working people I've known. He did The Issue Is, a political show where my son Luke happened to go over and meet Alex on.
Get out of here.
And then Marla is like a new mom who's in her 40s. And so, you know, these people are friends. And again, we built those relationships. So it makes it easy when you're on the air with people that you know.
Yeah.
And even funny, last night, I met Gayle King from CBS. And I saw her and I said, hey, you know, Gayle, my name's Chris Gialanella. I'm a big fan. And, you know, I do this segment. And she was so sweet. And like, again, because of my relationships with the CBS crew, it's easy to have conversations with anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
but yeah, we just find great content. And that's really what it's about. If it's interesting, we'll make it work.
Your company's lucky to have you, man. You're the face of that.
Thank you.
Best way to stay in contact with you, we'll put up the socials.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
What's the best way?
Probably Instagram is probably the easiest, right?
Yes.
At some point, or shoot me an email at cgialanella@lamag.com or cgialanella@orangecoast.com.
Amazing.
Yeah, and like, again, come to events. We do some great food events every year. I'd welcome people to come. Buy a ticket to some of the bigger events. Come over and say hi. You know,
absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
You are the pulse of what's going on in Orange County, LA. Like it's awesome, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, George.
Brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, my man. Thanks for listening to this episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. Please hit the subscribe and like buttons and follow me on all the main podcast streaming channels. Also, please share your comments when you can. I appreciate your help in expanding this network to a worldwide audience. Until next time, stay invigorated.